I'm going to tell you something that should genuinely disturb you. According to a study published in February 2026 by the National Institute on Retirement Security, the median American worker middle of the road, the most typical, the most average American between the ages of 21 and 64, has $955 saved for retirement. $955. Meanwhile, a separate study found that Americans believe they need $1.26 million to retire comfortably. That's the number in their head. That's the goal. $1.26 million versus $955. That is not a savings gap. That is a financial chasm. And here's what's absolutely critical. There's only one mechanism that has ever existed in the history of personal finance that can bridge a gap that wide. It has been available to every single person watching this video, at every income level, in every economic condition. Most people know the name. Almost nobody actually understands it. And the ones who do, they build the kind of wealth that most people assume is reserved for the lucky, the connected, or the already rich. It's called compound interest. And in the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how it actually works. Not the textbook definition, the real mechanics. The math that will physically change how you see money from this moment forward. The Warren Buffett shocker. Warren Buffett is worth approximately $160 billion. He is considered the greatest investor in the history of the world. He started investing at age 10. He was a millionaire by age 30. He was worth $300 million by age 50. And today, in his mid-90s, his net worth sits at roughly $160 billion. Here is the fact that rewires how most people understand wealth. 99% of Warren Buffett's net worth was built after he turned 50. He spent 40 years building 1%, and the next 40 plus years produced the other 99. Not because he got smarter. Not because the market got easier. Not because he found some secret strategy. But because of the mathematics of compounding, the way money multiplies on top of itself over time, in a way that is mathematically slow at first, and then almost violent in its speed. Most people hear compound interest, and they think, yeah, I know what that is. Money makes money. Cool. They have no idea. Because the real truth about compound interest is not just that money makes money. It's when the money starts to accelerate. It's the moment in the timeline that most people quit before they ever reach. It's the 8-4-3 pattern that separates wealth builders from people who try everything and end up broke. 25 minutes. This is the most important financial concept of your entire life, explained the way no one ever explained it to you. The $2 million $100. What would you do with an extra $100? Most people would spend it. A meal, clothes, something they want. $100 feels small. It feels inconsequential. It feels like the kind of money that doesn't really move the needle. Here's what $100 actually is. If someone in 1926 had taken $100, one single $100 bill, and placed it in an investment tracking the S&P 500, and then walked away and never touched it, never added another dollar, never checked the balance, never panicked during the Great Depression, or World War II, or Vietnam, or the dot-com crash, or 2008, or the COVID pandemic, that single $100 bill would be worth $2,007,000 today. $2 million from 100. That is not magic. That is not luck. That is not even particularly clever investing. That is a mathematical process called compound interest applied consistently, over 100 years, with patience as the only active ingredient. The question this video answers completely, with real numbers, real history, and real examples that apply to your life right now in 2026 is, how does it actually work? Not the definition, the mechanics, the timeline, the traps, the accelerants, and the single most important decision that determines whether compound interest builds your wealth or quietly destroys it. Let's go. Here is what this video covers. 7 chapters. Each one builds on the last. By the end, you will understand compound interest at a level that most adults never reach, including, based on the data, the majority of people who who are actively trying to invest and build wealth right now. Chapter 1 is the real definition what compound interest actually is, stripped of the textbook language, explained in a way that makes the mechanism instantly clear. Chapter 2 is the rule of 72, the single most useful mental math tool in personal finance. Once you have this, you'll never look at a savings account, an investment return, a credit card statement, or a retirement calculator the same way again. Chapters 3 and 4 are where this gets uncomfortable because compound interest has two sides. One side builds wealth, the other side destroys it. Most people are living on the wrong side and don't realize it. Chapters 5 through 7 are where the magic lives, the Warren Buffett timeline, the 8-4-3 acceleration pattern, and the 100-year S&P 500 proof that puts everything we'll discuss into the most powerful possible context. And the final section is the synthesis, the three forces actively competing for the compounding power of your money right now. You'll know exactly what they are, which ones are winning, and what to do about it. No fluff, no padding. Let's get into Chapter 1. The Satube, the retirement crisis, that makes this the most important video you'll watch this year. Before we get into the mechanics, I want to paint a picture of exactly what is at stake here, because compound interest is not an abstract concept for someone else's life. It is the single variable that determines whether the average person achieves financial security or financial dependence. And in 2026, the data on where most Americans stand is more alarming than most people know. February 2026. The National Institute on Retirement Security publishes a study. They look at defined contribution retirement plans, 401 accounts, the primary retirement savings vehicle for working Americans across every adult worker between the ages of 21 and 64. They calculate the median, the middle, the most typical number, $955. That is the median retirement savings of the American worker in 2026. Not the minimum, the median. The person in the dead center of the distribution, the most typical American working today, has saved less than $1,000 for their entire retirement. And this isn't because people aren't thinking about retirement. Kiplinger research shows that the magic number Americans believe they need to retire comfortably is $1.26 million. People know the goal. They're just not reaching it. The Bankrate 2025 Retirement Savings Report found that more than 52% of Americans who have not yet retired expect to rely on Social Security benefits to cover their necessary expenses in retirement. Not supplement. Rely on. Social Security, a program that pays an average monthly benefit of approximately $1,900 as the primary financial plan for retirement. Now here is the critical question that this entire video is designed to answer. How does a person go from $955 saved today, or $40,000, or $100,000, or wherever you currently are, to a retirement account worth over $1 million? Without winning the lottery, without a massive inheritance, without a six-figure salary? The answer is compound interest. Specifically, compound interest started early enough, applied consistently enough, and protected from the forces that reverse its power. That's the entire game. Let me show you exactly how to play it. 1. What compound interest actually is, the real mechanics behind the magic. Chapter 1. The real definition. Here is how compound interest is typically taught in school, when it's taught at all. Compound interest is interest calculated on the initial principal and on the accumulated interest of previous periods. That definition is technically correct and practically useless, because it doesn't actually help you feel what compound interest does. Let me give you the real explanation. Imagine you plant a single apple tree. In its first year, it produces 10 apples. Now, you have two choices. Option 1, you eat the 10 apples. You enjoy them. They're gone. Next year, your one tree produces 10 more apples. You eat those. The year after, 10 more. You'll always have exactly 10 apples a year as long as the tree is healthy. Option 2, you plant each of those 10 apples as new trees. Now you have 11 trees. Next year, 11 trees produce 10 apples each. That's 110 apples total. You plant those. Now you have 121 trees. The year after that, 121 trees produce 10 apples, each 1,210 apples. You plant all of those. After just 7 years, you have over 19 million apple trees. That is compound interest. Not the numbers, the structure. The idea that your returns generate their own returns. That the interest you earn becomes principal that earns more interest. That the money you make starts making money on its own, independent of any additional contribution you make. And that this process, left undisturbed, accelerates in a way that becomes almost incomprehensible over decades. In financial terms, here is how it works. You invest $10,000 at a 10% annual return. End of year 1, you've earned $1,000 in interest. Your balance is $11,000. Now here is the critical difference between simple interest and compound interest. With simple interest, next year you earn $1,000 again, 10% of your original $10,000. With compound interest, next year you earn 10% of $11,000, that's $1,100. The following year 10% of $12,100, that's $1,210. Every year, the amount of interest you earn goes up. Not because you added more money, because your previous interest is now earning interest of its own. The returns are compounding, stacking on top of each other in perpetuity. Simple interest gives you a straight line of growth. Compound interest gives you a curve. A slow, almost invisible curve at first. And then something extraordinary happens to that curve at a point in time that most people quit before they ever reach. Chapter 2 is going to give you the tool that shows you exactly when and how fast that curve moves for any investment, any debt, any financial decision you'll ever face. The Rule of 72 is one of the most powerful things I can give you today. It takes 30 seconds to learn, and it will change the way you read every financial number for the rest of your life. 2. The Rule of 72, the single most powerful mental math tool in personal finance. Chapter 2. The Rule of 72. Here is the rule in its entirety. Divide 72 by any interest rate, and the result tells you how many years it takes for your money to double at that rate. That's it. That's the rule. 72 divided by the interest rate equals the doubling time. Now let me apply it to every major financial number in your life and watch how differently you see the world after this. The national average savings account interest rate in the United States right now, according to FDIC data from 2025, is 0.4%, 0.4%. That is where most Americans keep their money, their emergency fund, their savings, the money they're keeping safe. Let's run the Rule of 72. 72 divided by 0.4 equals 180. At 0.4%, your money doubles in 180 years. You would need to live 9 lifetimes to see your savings account double your money. Now let's apply inflation. The current U.S. inflation rate is approximately 3%. 72 divided by 3 equals 24. Every 24 years, the cost of everything you buy doubles. At a 0.4% savings rate against 3% inflation, your money is not growing. It is losing. In real purchasing power terms, you are getting poorer every single year that you keep money in a standard savings account. Now let's apply the S&P 500. The long-run average annual return of the S&P 500, including dividends, is approximately 10.5% per year over 100 years of data. 72 divided by 10.5 equals approximately 6.86. At 10.5% per year, your money doubles roughly every 7 years. Let me show you what that means for $10,000 invested today. At year 7, your $10,000 has become approximately $20,000. At year 14, approximately $40,000. At year 21, approximately $80,000. At year 28, approximately $160,000. At year 35, approximately $320,000. At year 42, approximately $640,000. From a single $10,000 investment. No additional contributions. 0. Just compound interest, working at the historical S&P 500 average over 42 years. Now compare that to keeping that same $10,000 in the average savings account at 0.4% for 42 years. After 42 years, your balance would be approximately $11,771. $11,771. $640,000 versus $11,000. From the exact same starting point. The only variable is where the compound interest is working. But here's where the rule of 72 gets truly dangerous, and most people don't apply it in this direction, which is why it costs them a fortune. The rule of 72 works on debt just as powerfully as it works on savings. And for the average American carrying a credit card balance in 2026, the implications are devastating. 3. Compound interest working against you. The credit card math nobody shows you. Chapter 3. The other side of compound interest. Everything I've described so far, the apple trees, the doubling money, the $640,000 from $10,000, that is compound interest working for you. And the mathematics that make it so powerful as a wealth-building tool make it equally devastating as a wealth-destroying mechanism. When compound interest is pointed at you, when you are the borrower and the bank is the investor, the exact same mathematical engine that builds fortunes runs in reverse. Let's look at the real numbers for the average American in 2026. According to Motley Fool's Q3 2025 data, the average American credit card debt is $6,523. According to Forbes, as of November 2025, the average credit card interest rate on accounts being charged interest is 22.30%. Let's run the rule of 72. 72 divided by 22.30 equals approximately 3.2. At 22.3%, your credit card debt doubles in approximately 3.2 years. Read that again. The debt DUVLE is in just over 3 years, if you make no payments. But here's the part that makes this genuinely horrifying, because most people do make payments. They make the minimum payment every month, and they watch their balance barely move, wondering why. And this is the mathematical reason. According to Bankright's 2026 credit card debt report, if you carry a balance at 19% APR and make only minimum payments, you will be in debt for 170 months and pay $6,491 in interest. That is nearly 14 years of payments, and you will pay almost the exact same amount in interest as you borrowed in the first place. You will pay double. You will pay compound interest to the bank, while the bank earns the compounding returns you should be earning. At 22.3%, the current average, it's worse. And here is the financial trap that compound interest creates on the debt side that almost no one escapes without explicitly naming it. If you are carrying $6,523 in credit card debt at 22.3% and putting money in a savings account at 0.4%, you are simultaneously earning compound interest at 0.4% and paying compound interest at 22.3% on the same dollar amount. The bank is making 22.3% on your debt. You are making 0.4% on your savings. You are losing 21.9% of real compound growth every single year. The only rational first investment, the highest guaranteed return available to any person carrying credit card debt, is to eliminate that debt before investing anything else. Not because of discipline or morality, because of mathematics. Paying off a 22% debt is a guaranteed 22% return. No investment in history has consistently delivered that. Compound interest does not have loyalties. It does not care who it works for. It will build you wealth with the same dispassionate mathematics with which it builds the bank's profits on your debt. Understanding which side of it you're on in every financial product you use is the foundation of financial literacy. 4. The savings account lie. Why keeping money safe is the riskiest thing you can do. Chapter 4. The most dangerous financial myth in America. It goes like this. I'm keeping my money safe in my savings account. You've said it. Someone you love has said it. Millions of Americans repeat it every day. And while the intention is sound, protect the money, don't take risks. The mathematics behind it tells a completely different story. Safety is relative to inflation. And on an inflation-adjusted, real return basis, A standard savings account is not safe. It is slow motion loss. Here are the numbers. The national average savings account interest rate is 0.4%. Current U.S. inflation is approximately 3%. The real return on money held in a standard savings account, the actual purchasing power change, is 0.4-3, which equals negative 2.6%. Every year, money in the average savings account loses 2.6% of its real value. Not on paper, in terms of what that money can actually buy. Now let's extend that over time. Remember the rule of 72 applied to inflation purchasing power halves every 24 years at 3% inflation. If you have $50,000 in a savings account today, in 24 years, that $50,000 will have the purchasing power of approximately $25,000 in today's dollars. You will still have $50,000 on paper, but it will buy half as much. A standard savings account doesn't protect your money from inflation. It slow walks your money toward it while giving you the psychological comfort of a stable number. Now let's apply the real comparison. $50,000 in a standard savings account at 0.4% for 30 years grows to approximately $55,622. $50,000 in a broad market index fund, averaging 10.5% for 30 years grows to approximately $898,225. $898,000 versus $55,000. Same 30 years. Same $50,000. Different application of compound interest. I want to be absolutely clear about something here because this is the nuance that matters. This is not an argument that everyone should put all their money in the stock market. Emergency funds belong in liquid, accessible accounts. Short-term goal money belongs in stable instruments. The point is not to eliminate safety, it's to understand that the word safe means very different things depending on the time horizon. For money you won't need for 10 or more years, the safe choice mathematically is the one that allows compound interest to grow it, not the one that allows inflation to erode it. The question isn't should I take risks? The question is which risk is actually greater. The volatility of a diversified equity investment over 20 years, or the guaranteed slow erosion of purchasing power in an account earning less than inflation. Chapter 5 is where this all becomes personal. Because the most compelling demonstration of compound interest ever produced is not a textbook example. It is a human being, one man, and the specific shape of his wealth over time. Right here, 14 minutes in, you've already covered 4 of the 7 chapters. The rule of 72 is yours. The 2 sides of compound interest for you and against you are clear. The savings account math is done. Chapters 5, 6, and 7 are where the compound interest story becomes genuinely extraordinary. The Warren Buffett timeline shows you visually why patience is the most valuable financial skill. The 8-4-3 acceleration pattern shows you exactly when compound interest goes from slow to explosive and why most people quit right before the explosion. And the 100-year S&P 500 data shows you the real documented outcome of compound interest left completely undisturbed. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. We're going to finish the 7 chapters strong. 5. The Warren Buffett timeline, the greatest compound interest story ever told. Chapter 5. Warren Buffett. If you want to understand compound interest not as a formula, not as a concept, but as something you can see and feel, the most useful thing in the world is to look at the actual wealth trajectory of Warren Buffett over his lifetime. Because Warren Buffett is not famous because he found secret investments. He is famous because he understood compound interest better than anyone else alive, started earlier than almost anyone, and critically never stopped. Here is the timeline. Warren Buffett started investing at age 10. By age 30, his net worth was approximately $1 million. That is impressive. A 30-year-old millionaire who started with nothing is genuinely impressive. But measured against his final wealth, $1 million represents approximately 0.6% of his eventual fortune. By age 40, $25 million. Growing fast, but still nothing close to what people associate with Buffett's name. By age 50, approximately $300 million. Now we're talking serious money. Most people would consider $300 million the definition of set for life. And Buffett had built it over 40 years of investing. If he had stopped there, if he had retired at 50, satisfied with $300 million, said, "I've done enough," and parked his money in a savings account, his story would be a footnote. But he didn't stop. He understood what was coming. By age 60, approximately $3.8 billion. In 10 years, from 50 to 60, his net worth went from $300 million to $3.8 billion. He added more wealth in his 50s than in his entire first 50 years of life. By age 70, approximately $36 billion. The compound curve is now almost vertical. By age 80, approximately $47 billion. The great financial crisis hit in his mid to late 70s. He held. He bought. He did not panic. By age 90, approximately $84 billion. Today, in his mid-90s, approximately $160 billion. Here's the number that makes this the most powerful demonstration of compounding ever produced by a human life. 99% of Warren Buffett's net worth was built after he turned 50. He spent 40 years building 1%. The remaining 99% came from compound interest applied to that 1% over the following 4 decades. Buffett himself has explained it plainly. He said, and I'm quoting, "My wealth has come from a combination of living in America, some lucky genes, and compound interest. Not stock picks, not secret information. Compound interest." Now here's the question this raises. Buffett is exceptional. He is not replicable. But the mathematical principle of his wealth is completely replicable. The principle is, start early, invest consistently, earn reasonable returns, never stop, and give compound interest the one thing it needs most time. The mathematical engine that turned $300 million into $160 billion in 40 years is the exact same engine that turns $10,000 into $640,000 over 42 years. The scale is different. The mathematics are identical. Chapter 6 is where the timeline gets specific. Because there's a pattern inside the compound interest curve, a pattern called the 8-to-4-3 rule that explains exactly why most people quit right before the best part. And once you see it, you'll never look at the early stages of investing the same way. 6. The 8-to-4-3 rule, why compound interest feels boring until it suddenly isn't. Chapter 6. The 8-to-4-3 rule. This is one of the most important patterns in all of personal finance, and most people have never heard it named. Once you understand it, the behavior of compound interest across time becomes completely logical. And the reason most investors give up before compound interest pays them back becomes just as logical. Here is the 8-to-4-3 rule. Let's use $10,000 invested at 12% annual return as an example close to the long-run average of some broad market indices, including dividends in certain historical periods. To get your first, doubling your first $10,000 of pure compound return, taking your $10,000 to $20,000, it takes approximately 6 to 8 years. 8 years of patience. 8 years of watching the number grow at a rate that feels underwhelming. Year 1, $11,200. Year 2, $12,544. Year 3, $14,049. Year 4, $15,735. Year 5, $17,623. Year 6, $19,738. Year 7, $22,107. First doubling 7 to 8 years. $12,000 gained over 8 years. Your investment went from $10,000 to $22,000. Not nothing, but not life-changing. Most people are not impressed. But something important happened during those 8 years. Your compounding base, the amount of money generating the returns, doubled. And doubling the base means the next doubling happens faster. To get your second doubling from $22,000 to $44,000 takes approximately 4 more years. Half the time. Why? Because you now have $22,000 generating compound returns, not $10,000. At 12%, $22,000 generates $2,640 per year. At the same rate, $10,000 generated $1,200 per year. The machine is running on twice as much fuel. By year 12, you're sitting at approximately $44,000. And the third doubling from $44,000 to $88,000 takes approximately 3 more years. 3. Because $44,000 at 12% generates $5,280 per year in interest alone. The snowball is enormous now. It barely needs a hill. Gravity is doing the work. 8 years to the first doubling, 4 more to the second, 3 more to the third, 8 to 4, 3. The doublings accelerate. Each one covers twice the ground in less time. The compound curve isn't a straight exponential from day one. It is a slow build that hits an inflection point, and then it is almost violent in its growth. This is the pattern that explains why most people fail at compound investing. They start, they invest, they watch the slow growth in their early years. They look at friends who are spending money, living for now, seemingly getting ahead in the short term. And after 5 or 6 years of modest returns right before the inflection point, right before the acceleration, they get frustrated. They pull the money. They spend it. They step off the curve. They quit in the 8 right before the 4, right before the 3, right before the explosion that the entire first phase was building toward. The investors who understand the 8 to 4 3 rule don't quit in the 8. They know the 8 is the price of admission. They know the 4 is the proof. And they know the 3 is the payoff. They stay patient in the boring years because they understand mathematically that the boring years are not wasted years. They are the foundation years. Every dollar of boring growth in year 3 is a dollar that will generate compounding returns for decades. 7 to 100 into $2 million, the 100-year S&P 500 proof that changes everything. Chapter 7. The 100-year proof. Everything I've described in the previous 6 chapters, the mechanics of compounding, the rule of 72, the dangerous reverse side on debt, the savings account math, the Warren Buffett timeline, the 8 to 4 3 acceleration pattern, all of it points toward one historical demonstration that makes it real. $100. S&P 500. 1926. If, in 1926, a person had invested $100 into an instrument tracking the S&P 500 and then completely left it alone, never added a dollar, never removed a dollar, never changed anything, that investment would be worth approximately $2,007,000 today. Let me give you the context for that 100-year journey, because it was not a smooth ride. 1929, 3 years after the investment is made, the stock market crashes 89%. The $100 that had grown slightly is now worth approximately $11. If you had checked your account in 1932, you would have been looking at an 89% loss. Most investors sold. The ones who held went through the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, the Cold War threat of nuclear annihilation, the Kennedy assassination, Vietnam, Watergate, stagflation in the 1970s, Black Monday in 1987, when the market fell 22% in a single day, the dot-com crash in 2000, when the Nasdaq fell 78%, the 2008 financial crisis, the COVID pandemic. Through all of it, the compound interest engine kept running. Every time the market fell, the compound mathematics were temporarily interrupted, and every time without exception in 100 years the engine restarted. Returns compounded on the new, higher base. The 8 to 4 3 pattern played out again. And the line continued its long, interrupted, resilient march upward. $2,007,000 from 100. Now, nobody invests $100 in 1926 and never touches it. That's not a realistic financial plan, but the mathematical principle is completely real and completely applicable. The $100 example is not a fantasy. It is the documented output of compound interest applied to a real investment over real time through real crisis. What it proves empirically, not theoretically, is that compound interest, applied consistently over long time periods, at reasonable rates of return, produces outcomes that seem impossible from the starting point. The person who invested that $100 in 1926 could not have imagined $2 million. The 30-year-old investor today who puts $10,000 into a broad index fund at historical average returns cannot fully imagine $640,000. But the mathematics don't care about imagination. They operate the same way regardless of whether the investor believes in them. Here is what the 100-year proof teaches us beyond just the numbers. It teaches us that compound interest requires almost nothing from the investor except the decision to start, the discipline to contribute consistently, and the patience to not interfere. Those three requirements, start, contribute, don't interfere, are the entire operating manual. Start. Contribute consistently. Don't interfere. Everything else is noise. The SYNTAESIS, the three forces fighting for the compound power of your money right now. 7 chapters. Let me bring it all together into one framework, because this is the synthesis that will stick with you long after this video ends. Right now, at this moment, there are 3 compound interest forces operating on your financial life simultaneously. Every dollar you earn is subject to all 3. And which ones you feed and which ones you starve is the decision that determines your financial future. Force 1: compound growth. The S&P 500, broad market index funds, quality long-term equity investments. Average historical return 10.5% annually. Rule of 72, doubling time approximately 7 years. This is the force that turned $100 in 1926 into $2 million. This is the force that turned $300 million into $160 billion for Warren Buffett. This is the force that, applied consistently over 30 to 40 years, produces wealth that most people assume is impossible for people who didn't start rich. Force 2: debt compound interest. Credit cards at 22.3% average APR, personal loans. High interest debt of any kind. Rule of 72, doubling time approximately 3.2 years. This is compound interest in full reverse, running the same mathematical engine against you with the same relentless efficiency. While Force 1 is trying to double your money every 7 years, Force 2 is doubling your debt every 3 years. As long as both forces are active simultaneously, they are partially canceling each other out. The single most powerful first step in compound investing is not finding the best stock. It is eliminating the debt that is running compound interest against you. Force 3: inflation. Currently approximately 3% per year in the US. Rule of 72, doubling time for inflation, purchasing power halves every 24 years. This is the silent force. It doesn't show up on your bank statement. There's no alert, no notification, no visible loss. But every year that your money sits in a 0.4% savings account, you are losing 2.6% of its real purchasing power. Silently, consistently, with compound mathematics. 3 forces. 1 active for you, 2 active against you. A financial decision-making framework for every dollar you earn, every debt you hold, every account you use is the question. Which force am I feeding right now? The median American worker, with $955 saved for retirement, is fully feeding Force 2 and Force 3. And Force 1, the only force that builds wealth, is receiving nothing. That is not a character flaw. It is an education gap. It is the direct result of a system that teaches most people almost nothing about the mathematics of money until it's too late to use them. This video exists to close that gap. Not for everyone. For you. For the people watching this. For the people who finished a 25-minute financial education video because they genuinely want something different from the median outcome. Let me leave you with 3 numbers. $955. That is the median American retirement savings today. That is the current output of a system that doesn't teach compound interest the way it deserves to be taught. $2,007,000. That is what a single $100 bill became in 100 years of compound interest through the S&P 500. That is the output of the exact same mathematical engine applied with patience and consistency. 99%. The share of Warren Buffett's net worth built after age 50. the most powerful human demonstration of compound interest ever recorded. Not because he was extraordinary in every way, but because he gave compound interest the one thing it needs most: time. You have time. Regardless of your age, your income, your current savings balance, the compound engine is available to you. It doesn't require a minimum balance. It doesn't require a financial advisor. It doesn't require luck, connections, or a background in finance. It requires three things. Start. Contribute consistently. Don't interfere. Start today. $1 invested today earns compound interest starting today. $1 kept in a 0.4% savings account loses real value starting today. The direction of the force is determined by the decision, and the decision is always available to you. If this gave you genuine clarity, please hit the like button. It's free. It tells the algorithm that this kind of financial education is worth pushing to people who need it. Subscribe if you want to continue building this knowledge. Every video on this channel is built around one goal: giving people the financial education they deserve. Drop a comment, tell me, which chapter hit you the hardest? I read everyone. I respond to everyone. The compound engine is running right now. For you or against you. That choice starting right now is yours. I'll see you in the next one.